Hello, everybody. It's Natalie McKenzie with The Whole Woman, and it's 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, which means it's Quaran-Tea time. Grab a chair, get some friends, invite them over, tell them to join us live on Facebook on the Whole Woman page so you can have today's special guest, none other than Neale Godfrey, Goddess of Money. Her resume is laced with first Trailblazer pioneer in so many places, one wonders if she created air. This dynamic, energetic, fun loving woman who loves all things purple is just a bright light in all rooms. Neale's wit, sense of humor, and perfect it makes her a perfect dinner guest, a problem solver, and friend. Make some noise and help me welcome Neale Godfrey. Hello, Neale.
Hey, how are you, Natalie?
I am well. Where's your purple today?
I know I decided to go big happy today. Look at the
And sparkles.
a lot of sparkles. Yeah, a lot of sparkles. So.
Good to see you, Neale. How have you been?
I've been, I'm blessed. Unfortunately, I have lost friends in this, but my kids and I have been safe, and it's our time to make sure that we give to others who need all that support. So I've been blessed. It's, travels are cut. It's hard to say that I'm traveling to the kitchen, then traveling back to my office, and then traveling to the refrigerator. When that gets to be a destination, things are a little off. Yeah.
The refrigerator now has a ding that says, not you again.
Right. I know you. You might want to hit the salad bar. Yes.
Yeah, again, no. So, but Neale, I'm so glad you're doing well. It's good to see you. Good to know that the kids are doing well and the grandkids. You're right. We've had quite a bit of loss. This is times like we've never had before. But I want to talk a little bit about you, Neale. We want to talk about your accomplishments. Also, want to hear a little bit about where you see us today, 2020, with post-COVID. What will happen with our money? What will happen with our economy? What's going to happen with our finances? But let's talk about Neale. Tell me how Neale got started, because I know you got to Wall Street in 1972, and you were one of the first female banking executives.
Yeah, it was a strange time, Natalie. Chase Manhattan Bank, who, by the way, had 54,000 employees in 1972, decided to have the big experiment and to hire a few women to become executives. And so I made it through the interview process. That's another whole story. And went into the training program. And I was hired at the same rate that the men were, which was $11,000 a year. And that was a lot of money in those days, Natalie. And then after 2 weeks of being in the program, the head of personnel, which is what human resources was called in those days, called me into her office and said, "Hey, you're a woman, you're taking the job of a man. We are going to reduce your salary down to $6,500 a year." And I said, "Oh, okay. What do I have to do to earn what the men are earning?" And she said, "Graduate first in the training program." So I did. And I went back in, and she said, "No, you're a woman. You're taking the job of a man. You will never be paid what the men are being paid." And by the way, she was right, Natalie. I was never paid.
Wow, sisterhood.
Yeah, sisterhood. Don't worry. Don't worry. She was right.
Yeah.
But you know what? What's interesting is you have to look at the whole career span to know what that really means. And for me, being there 13 years and then getting a small pension, it meant over my career, my life of my career, not getting bonuses, not getting what the men were earning, that it cost me on a priority basis $2 million not earning the same that men were.
And this is the 70s into early 80s when you had absolutely no recourse.
Oh, no, 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 no. We didn't even have the words affirmative action. We didn't have sexual harassment. These weren't even words that, you know.
So you were happy to have this job, lump it or like it. You're tickled pink to have $6,500 a year. You know, there goes that 1,500, and the bonuses that the men got, you didn't get.
Absolutely. And I was thrilled to have the job. I was trained. I actually enjoyed my days at Chase, avoiding all the things that we know you had to avoid. But I learned a lot, and it gave me my start in life. And I did have some really, really big opportunities when I was there.
So that's quite interesting and exciting. Tell me about some of the most memorable experiences you had. I know you happen to have been involved with one of the largest mergers at the time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Natalie, it was pretty cool. I was selected to put together the DuPont Conoco merger in 1980, and at that point, it was the largest merger in the history of the United States, and it was supposed to be a big secret. In fact, it was. It was the deal kept a secret from the arbitrageurs, and it was an unfriendly tender, and that meant at that point Seagram's and DuPont and also Mobil Oil were going after Conoco to buy them. And I was selected to go back and forth to DuPont. And I had 1 week to put together $4 billion. We'd never put $1 billion together in the market ever. And nobody knew how to do it. And I think it was one of those things, let her go do it, because let her go mess it up. But I had, as you know, kind of a harrowing story in the middle of the deal.
So $4 billion back then, how were you able to, were we even able to compute in the billions back then?
That's a great question. Actually, I woke up one morning at, like 2 a.m. in a cold sweat going, I wonder if the Chase computers take billions. The answer was no. I was reporting into the president, chairman, and also David Rockefeller, and I woke them up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, just saying, can we take billions on the Chase computers? Dead silence on the other end of the phone, and all I heard was, oh shit, which and to me, nope. So Chase called in 1,500 computer programmers from Thursday till Monday when we went to market to reprogram the Chase Manhattan Bank computers so they could take this money and do the tender offer on Monday. And we pulled it off. It was cool.
So Neale, that must have made you the absolute doll and baby and champion of Chase. They rewarded you nicely, I'm sure.
Well, let's talk about that. My counterpart at First Boston, he did the tender offer. I did the bank financing that was going to be a takeout into stock. And I called him Gucci Two Shoes. That's probably bad, right? Gucci, who did wear suspenders, I might add, didn't quite master what he was doing. And I knew he'd mess it up, and he did mess it up. So that meant that Chase got to have $4 billion of money in a checking account from DuPont. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but you know what? In those days, money was 19%.
Yep.
And he messed it up. We had 9 months of this. We earned over $500 million on this deal, by the most profitable deal Chase had ever done. And what was interesting is that Gucci Two Shoes received $1 million bonus for his service messing up the deal, and I was rewarded with a $10,000 bonus.
And a notebook. Did someone inadvertently miss a 0 or 2? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I thought, which I did mention. I said, oh my God, this is so cute. This is so cute. But are you kidding? And that's when the notebook appeared with my initials on it. So, yeah.
So Neale, what action did you decide to take after that? Because I know you well enough to know you are not going to take that sitting down or just walking back to your desk for another Monday morning effort.
You know, that's a great question, but the truth is, in those days, we who was I going to? There were no female role models. There were no women in power at the bank. And my choice, anytime I could ever open my mouth, would have meant that I would have been fired. And I liked my job. I liked what I was doing. I knew it wasn't a forever, but I was learning more, being part of these great, hallowed halls of commerce and handling some of the largest companies in the world. I made the decision to lend to Walmart and got to meet Sam Walton and went canoeing with him on the Buffalo River. When would that? That's another story. When would that ever happen in my life? And got to do that level of merger and acquisition work with corporate America. So you sort of had to put up with the junk, and you did.
Interesting perspective, Neale. I guess that's one of the things that's led to your immense success is you've always been able to see the ray at the end of, the I guess the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or the light at the end of the tunnel, depending on the incidents. So tell us a little bit more about this career and your transition from Chase to being a president of one of the first female banks or the first female bank here in America.
Well, I had sort of hit the glass ceiling, and I knew that. I did become an executive at Chase and did a lot of stuff, but I knew I was never going to be president of Chase Manhattan Bank. That was pretty clear. And I had an opportunity to become president of the first women's bank. And, I know your question is going to be, Natalie, why a first women's bank? And it's because the Fair Credit Act had not been enacted until 1974. And what that meant was that women could not get credit on their own name. I mean, that my first credit card at Chase Manhattan Bank had my then husband's name on it. Then is the operative word. And he had no credit. He was a law student. He had no credit. And my credit card as an executive with my credit had his name on it with a permission slip from him for me to buy credit. That's why we needed a first women's bank.
And what happened with that bank? Because what was the name of that bank, Neale?
It was the first women's bank because, and that's what it was. There were no banks for women, and women were obviously heretofore kept out of the economic system. They couldn't even have credit in their own name.
Now, how was that experience for you? Suddenly, you are now the banker for the women, for all things female. And was the marketplace ready for that? Were women ready to bank on their own?
That's great to talk about. The fact of the matter is, I watched women be disempowered handling their own money. And that seemed really goofy to me. So I did research and found out it was because we were never taught anything about money when we were kids. So I was a single mom at that point. I was divorced. So I schlepped my two little kids around to bookstores in New York to buy books to teach them about money.
And what did you find?
Well, I found out there were none. There was no topic to teach kids about money in the 1980s. So after I had taken my kids to enough bookstores, my 3-year-old daughter said to me, "Mommy, we are sick of going bookstore to bookstore. You haven't found any books. Why don't you just write the books?"
And what did Neale do? Because knowing you, the problem solver you are, you did what? You took her
Well,
the challenge?
I sort of looked at her and she saw that look on my face. And you know that look, Natalie, which is, oh, wait a minute. I know how to be a bank president. I don't know how to write a book. And she identified it right away and said, "Oh, you're afraid?" And it was like, okay, there's a challenge. She threw the gauntlet down. So I crouched and established eye contact with this 3-year-old and said, "No, I'm not afraid." I didn't know what that meant, write a book. So I figured it out. And I created cartoon characters that have financial personalities, because we're connected with money by the way we handle it, not our socioeconomic level. It's you're a saver or a spender. That's who you are, and that's how you handle your money. So created characters. And of course, I have a heroine who is Penny Bright, today's savvy feline, an entrepreneur. She knows her fashion and her tax code. So I had a lot of other characters, wrote this, what I considered a clever book. And if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you go to the world's largest publisher, right? So Simon & Schuster, and I marched in there with my book and said, ta-da, we can educate and empower children and their parents to take charge of their financial lives. We can kick off this whole incredibly important topic. And the reaction of my editor that I saw, a woman, said, thanks for stopping by. There are no books to talk about money. Therefore, it's not a topic of interest. Thanks.
Not that no one thought about writing it. It's not a topic of interest.
Nope. So I was shut down and in tears and walking and out of Simon & Schuster. I made it about 2 blocks to tell the truth. And then I was like, oh, come on. It wasn't a no. What it really was, you weren't listening, Neale. It was, we need proof of concept. Okay. So I opened up the first children's bank, a real bank for kids at FAO Schwartz, the toy store in New York on Madison and Fifth Avenue, and an institute for youth entrepreneurship up in Harlem to bring kids into the economy. And we started a greeting card company that they ran. They learned, I taught them how to run every single piece of it, from concept all the way through to production and sales and accounting. And they started a greeting card company. Both projects were incredibly successful. In fact, Princess Diana flew over with the royal children to open up accounts at the first children's bank. And Natalie, it was so funny because
Princess Di
came into the bank. Yes. And I was like goofy because do you curtsy? Do you like, what do you do? You know? So I was a jerk, but okay, that's not a big surprise. But, and I called her Princess Di, which by the way is a nickname. Who knew? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that was bad.
But that's pretty exciting, Neale. So you created this children's bank. Now we know you, out of that came the Children's Financial Network, because you created the children's bank. You'd already written the books, but no one's reading the books because they're not published.
Right.
So
exactly.
What do we do?
Okay. What we do is we do proof of concept. We go back to Simon & Schuster and we go, proof of concept, Lady Di, this Institute for Youth Entrepreneurship in Harlem. This is a really important topic. And they say, thanks for stopping in. There still are no books to teach kids about money. Thanks. So back outside, back on the street, crying, 2 blocks. And then it was put your big girl panties on. You know how to buy and sell companies. You can go figure this out. So I bought a publishing company. So seemed like it made sense at the time. So I bought a division of Macmillan called Checkerboard Press. And at closing, the bank said, by the way, you're chairman of the board, which I didn't want to run a publishing company. I just wanted a book. So I made it pretty clear to my staff that we were indeed going to publish the kids' money book. And surprisingly enough, after I mentioned that I could fire all of them, they did decide to publish my book.
Very smart people.
Very smart people. So we published the kids' money book and it sold 50,000 copies. I sold the company and went back to Simon & Schuster, who then said, oh, look, here's this other book to teach kids about money, sold 50,000 copies. We're ready to take your cute little project on, which they did.
Money doesn't grow on trees. And that book later went on to become,
ta-da!
There you go. Still in print, Neale.
Still in print. And what was interesting about that one is that they published the book. They wouldn't go hardcover because it wasn't important enough. They published it in softcover. And then one day the phone rang And my daughter, who at that point was 10 years old, comes running into the room and goes, "Mommy, Oprah is on the telephone for you." And I said, "No, it is not Oprah. I have a friend who does Oprah impersonations. Give me the phone." So I took the phone and I was doing, "Go girl, give it your best shot, climb every mountain." So my daughter was watching this entire scene and then held up a piece of paper and said, "You can ruin your life, but don't ruin mine. Stop it with the whole Oprah routine with Oprah." Okay. So that was, so I was lucky enough then to work with Oprah for 4.5 years, and I did 13 shows and, became her money person for those 4.5 years. And my little cute book hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, sold millions of copies, and really established the topic of kids and money to empower them to take charge of their lives. And, if we fast forward, I have 27 books, no life, and I'm working on 2 more now.
So, Neale, let's talk a little bit about the Children's Financial Network, the work that you do, because I know for you, it's giving back is an integral part of what you teach children. But here we are in 2020. It's COVID, we're quarantined. We're now homeschooling our children because we know even today most schools do not have as part of the curriculum, fiduciary education for children. What are the lessons that we should be teaching our children about money as
You're
responsible
absolutely
adults?
right. Only 17 of the states in the United States even mandate any teaching of financial literacy. And in fact, in New Jersey, we only mandate 2.5 hours as a senior when they could really care less. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart, certainly on the philanthropic side, but also the idea of your home. What a perfect time to start getting those kids involved in being financially literate. So it's time, Natalie, come clean with the kids. You need to, by the way, come clean with yourself too, but also come clean with the kids. Sit down and really look pre-COVID. What are your expenses? And by each expense, write a little notation of, was that a need or a want? And start reviewing the necessary expenses. And be honest, you don't want these kids to really think that indeed money grows on trees. So get them involved in some of the things they can do to cut expenses. Empower them to look at the bills.
Mm,
All the things we automatically pay every single month. You were talking before about subscriptions. Really? How
yeah.
about a house phone? How about the cable bill? How about the cell phone bill? You can have a conversation without keeping the refrigerator door open. I know this is hard to believe. Um, get the kids involved in really what the real bills are and reducing them, because we're all in this together and they need to know that
You know,
their choices make a difference.
Neale, you mentioned your first salary being $8,000, $11,000, which was later reduced to $6,500 per year. And for most of our listeners now, hearing this, if they're mid-30s, they're thinking, you've got to be crazy. What does that mean in today's dollars? Because now when you think about what you're doing with money, how is our money working for us this COVID period when so many people have lost employment?
Well, actually, I looked it up in 1972. What did even $10,000 look like? And it's really, um, 10,000 looked like 30,000. So, man, I was earning a little less than $30,000 a year, which, again, by the way, was not so bad in those days, but pretty bad. We're into a time we don't know how long this is going to last, Natalie.
Mhm.
I'm afraid that the stimulus money that we've seen from the CARE Act is not going to be renewed. I don't think we're going to go necessarily into a third tranche for the PPP. I think that we're in for really a rough road ahead. We have 30 million people out of work.
Mhm.
The vast majority of people are going to be economically hurt by this. This is not the time to get out there and do comfort spending. We talked about it before. There's 60 million people who are spending more money online shopping than there were pre-COVID. Stop it. Just stop it. It's not going to add comfort to your life down the road if this keeps going.
It's going. Neale, what's the difference, especially for the younger kids? And you know what? Most adults don't know the difference. What is the difference between money, finance, and the economy?
I think that's really great. I mean, they're all interrelated in that money is just the stuff that we use, that we all accept to buy and sell things. The economy is really the community of all the buying and selling that takes place in the world and also in our country. So we have to look at the world. There are people who are trying to isolate us, like our leaders, and it doesn't work like that. I buy what you sell and you sell what I buy. And we are interconnected, and we do need to have respect for the world in terms of the manufacturing, the selling, and the buying. And we're in this thing together. And we've seen, even on a little tiny basis, remember when you couldn't get toilet paper? Hello.
Still can't get Lysol.
Lysol, don't even talk Lysol. Okay. I mean, Lysol.
Yeah.
That would be a house present that I would bring to you, if we ever can have dinner together again. But so we have to think about that. Go into your local supermarket, try to buy a whole bunch of meat, Natalie. I was
Mhm.
the other day and had maybe 5 little things of meat, and which, by the way, the shelves were almost empty. And the computer kicked out one of the packs of meat, saying you have to put one of them back. You can't buy that much. And I said, why? And they said, because there's a quota, because our meat processing firms, 1 in 3 of them have massive, massive infection.
Wow. Now,
Wow.
Neale, I know you're involved at Columbia University, and you are what they call an executive in residence. What are you telling your Columbia students who are preparing to go out in the marketplace? Or some of them already are in the marketplace and doing postgraduate work.
Well, this is the sad part. This is the millennial group because my students are older. They're in their 30s. And this is the second big slam they've had. They went through the 2008 recession where they had to move back home. By the way, our GDP or our unemployment rate had fallen or risen to 10% in those days. We're up to 20% today. So you think things are bad then? Anyway, these kids, I call them kids because they're younger than I am, which makes everyone a kid. These kids were graduating with jobs, with internships over the summer. Everything was great. We had 3% unemployment rate. Finally, they're getting their break. You know what? Slam. The jobs are over. The firms are not hiring, and they're certainly not hiring an intern during this period of time. So these kids are scrambling. They have no idea what life is going to be for them moving forward. So it's really scary for this generation. Second time it's happened to them.
Neale, I'm so happy we've had this chance to sit together, but unfortunately, 30 minutes is just not enough time. So we'll have to invite you back on post-COVID to see where we are. But how can we get a hold of you um, if our viewers want to learn more about your programs and to connect with you? Is it your website?
I'd love people to come onto my website. It's nealegodfrey.com. They can actually email me with any of their questions, which is Neale at nealegodfrey.com.
And her handle on social media, all things Neale, is simply Neale Godfrey. Neale, I'm so happy you were able to join us today Not the happiest topic, but an absolutely necessary one. Just yesterday, I canceled our subscription to the New York Times because for 6 weeks we've tossed it in the trash because no one wants to touch the paper. I'm eliminating the things on our app on the telephone because so many apps automatically debit your account. Those are things to look at and think about. We're so delighted that you were able to join us today. We have to go. Tomorrow's guest is none other than Secretary of State of New Jersey, the Honorable Tahisha Wade. Join us for all things civic and our responsibility here in New Jersey. I'm Natalie McKenzie with The Whole Woman, and I wish you enough life to live, enough joy to give, enough love to share. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining.